I started gaming over 40 years ago. In 1981, my best friend had an Atari 2600, and I'd go over to his house as much as possible and play whatever games he had. Pac-Man, Pitfall, Stampede, Adventure, anything. It was so amazing. The joystick was just this simple little thing with, 4 or 8 directions and one button, and that seemed like more than enough to just fall into this amazing world. At that time, you really had to use your imagination. I mean, these stories were conveyed in such simple, crude visuals and sounds and gameplay, but it still felt kind of magical. Not magical enough that I could persuade my parents to let me get one.
Can I please get that game console? I earned enough money walking the dogs and cleaning up all their shit.
No, games are stupid. Go read a book.
I read all the books.
Read them again. A few years later, in the mid-'80s, late 80s, my brother got a Nintendo Entertainment System, an NES, and I loved playing that as well. This is a recurring thing that I didn't own my own game system for a while. This is fancier. It had an A and a B button. And I also loved some games in that realm. Super Mario Brothers, Contra, Punch-Out, Legend of Zelda. Again, there was a lot you had to do in your head to imagine these stories. But I think there was something keeping me from being all in on gaming. These were things I kind of did vicariously through other people. And I didn't have another console for many, many years after that. I played some games on my PC, but I didn't get way into gaming. Around 2007, we got a Nintendo Wii. My stepson was most into it, and I played a little bit. And it was a pretty delightful experience playing tennis and bowling and golf with all these real-world-like gestures. I found it really interesting. But again, I didn't get into it in an emotional way. We're going to just choose not to talk about how I got so deeply obsessed with Dance Dance Revolution that I recorded the hardest level on my VHS recorder so that I could watch it in slow motion and study the pattern and then play it late into the night. And I was making so much noise that my wife would send me text messages saying, "Would you stop jumping? You keep waking up the kid." We're going to pretend that phase did not exist. And then 2017, the Nintendo Switch. This time, I was all in on this console. My younger kid and I, kind of both played it. But I was deeply into it, and I knew I would be kind of into it when I started hearing about Zelda Breath of the Wild. This concept of an open world game seemed so fascinating and kind of what I dreamed of ever since I played Legend of Zelda many decades prior, but with far more depth in a way that I thought this might be the game to get me into gaming. I was super nervous about all the controls. I studied the controls before the game arrived because I'm like, can a guy in his, let's see, at the time I was in my mid-40s, can a guy in his mid-40s suddenly learn how to use a controller with 16 buttons and 2 thumbsticks and all this other stuff you got to do? I thought maybe I couldn't pull it off.
Are you ready to go to bed yet? I'm waiting for you, and I'm naked.
Just give me a few more minutes. I'm trying to figure out the difference between ZL and L. I think they're different buttons. But I could do it, and that world was just as magical as I imagined it would be. The fact that this team of people, hundreds of people over many years, built such a living, breathing world was amazing. The way you could just look out in the distance, see something weird, and go there and find something surprising was amazing. That was just the first game I got into in this modern era. I started looking at some of these indie games, these independent games. So I tried a game like Hollow Knight. It's not in the open world genre. I think maybe Metroidvania is the name of its genre. Whatever. It was a fully realized world as well, and there was so much to it. Then I found games like Celeste, where I felt so much emotionally for the character, the hero. In this case, whatever anxiety or depression she's going through, I hadn't felt that way about a character before in a game. And that started me along this quest to look at storytelling in games. I want to feel a story, and I hadn't done that, and I heard about games like Red Dead Redemption, and I wanted to play that. So then I got an Xbox, the Xbox Series S, the cheaper of the latest generation, and I got Red Dead Redemption 2, and I was kind of nervous about that because I was like, I don't like shooting games, really. I really suck at shooting. And this is like a big budget AAA game. And so I thought it's going to just cater to a broad audience. It's not going to have such an interesting game. But people keep telling me it's good. And it's open world. I figure, hey, I like open worlds. I'll try it. What got me was not the open world, which was kind of remarkable. The narrative was top notch. Like, they spared no expense and were all in on telling a complex story about a complex character.
Arthur, I'm coming with you. I'm gonna get you out of this bullshit if it's the last goddamn thing I do. Thank you.
So then I signed up for Xbox Game Pass, which is sort of like a Netflix service that Microsoft provides where you can try out hundreds of games. And I found so many games with so many fabulous, wonderful stories. Some were big budget games like Persona 5. But some were smaller games like What Remains of Edith Finch, Immortality, Unpacking, Pentiment, It Takes Two, many others. There were just so many cool ways to tell a story, and a bunch of the modern games have many accessibility settings, including a way that I could often adjust the difficulty so that I could enjoy the game. In the past few months, I also picked up a PlayStation PS5 because I want to try their VR stuff. Oh, and speaking of VR, we're just going to gloss over that incident back in 2019 where I literally broke a bone in my hand using the Oculus Quest. I mistakenly punched a metal ceiling lamp above me in real life while trying to throw a ball in the VR world. The crazy thing about it was that even after I broke my hand, I kept playing VR for 30 more minutes because I had a limited time to play it. And then I picked up my kid from school, and then I drove myself to urgent care. Anyway, I was excited about trying PlayStation because I had heard about these exclusive PlayStation games that were wonderful. So far, I've only played God of War Ragnarok and The Last of Us Part 1, both amazing stories. Both seem to overlap thematically in that they were about these tough men trying to figure out how to soften up and be decent dad-type people. I got to admit, at first, it was a little bit painful following along with these totally stubborn-ass tough guys.
Let us go home.
Here's how this thing's gonna play out.
Prepare for a fight for which we are not ready.
You don't bring up Tess. Ever.
We must be strong.
And lastly, you do what I say, when I say it.
I will not allow you to pick a fight with gods.
Repeat it.
We train.
It's the middle of the night.
Night does not stop our enemies.
But both stories had great story arcs, and it was so exciting to see these guys grow and soften and open their hearts by the end of these stories. These narratives were just so thoughtfully told, just like with a great novel or movie.
We don't have to do this. You know that, right?
What's the other option?
Go back to Tommy's. Just be done with this whole damn thing.
After all we've been through. Everything that I've done. It can't be for nothing.
I was wrong, Atreus.
their suffering.
I also love that there's a TV series now for The Last of Us that pays wonderful tribute to the story of this game. And what I love is seeing how the game shines more in some ways, but the TV show shines more in other ways. They both are beautiful stories, even if slightly different. You know, for me, as someone who started out my creativity through writing, what's so exciting about gaming is with writing, you know, there's many ways you can creatively tell a story, but it's mostly through the way you put the words together. Whereas with gaming, there's like several different dimensions of how you convey these things. You know, there's the cinematic performance, also known as a cut scene, kind of like a scene from a movie. But then there's also the gameplay and how the game nudges you to try something or do something or go somewhere. And the game can even use words on the screen. And sometimes, usually, it's the interplay of all those things that make the storytelling amazing. That's kind of remarkable for me to see. I don't mean to shit on writing. I still love writing, and I'm still working on a novel that I should be working on right now instead of doing this video. But this world of gaming has opened me up to how many incredible ways humans can tell stories. So here I am, you know, I'm over 50 years old. I don't know why I keep talking about my age. I'm kind of bewildered that I'm this age, because in my head I feel like I'm just this young kid still, except I have a bad back and headaches like an older person. But I just didn't know that one of the most amazing things I would discover in these years is how damn good games are. I think I used to be judgmental about gaming and gamers. I mean, I know I was judgmental because I thought it was just like some lower art form or just a way people would waste time. You know, I just thought it would be like, pick like a crappy iPhone game. And I just thought gaming was like that, just with more buttons on a console or something. But then to learn that this is such a rich world. So here I'm in this weird position where I keep thinking of myself as a non-gamer, but I have all three of the latest consoles. You know, I have a Nintendo Switch, an Xbox Series S, and a PlayStation 5, the digital, cheaper one, but still. And they're all amazing. Like, I if anyone says, should I get blah, 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 I'd be like, yes, it's great. And just to really, really quickly talk about the differences I noticed, with the Nintendo games, they're a little more family-friendly, but like these gems of total joy to play. Xbox, I think the key for it for me was Game Pass. It lets you survey so many different kind of games, and maybe is the best way in if you're trying to figure out what you like about gaming. PlayStation, they have some great exclusives to that console. They seem especially good at narrative-driven games, apparently often about bad dads who learn to open their hearts, but maybe I just happen to be in the bad dad grad genre. But I'm excited to try some of their other exclusives and find out more. Any console, though, had something inspiring and exciting to explore. I'm also energized when I'm working on my novel after having played an amazing game that had me tear up. I mean, if I were more human and were able to, like, cry. But I got into these games, and now I'm extra excited as I work on my stories. I don't know how to end this, to be honest with you. This is really just like a long monologue of me going, holy shit, games are the shit. Thank you for joining me.